Ormai da una settimana il Libano è in rivolta, la situazione è sempre più complicata da gestire per il governo locale, anche perché è una situazione abbastanza unica per il paese. Per capirne un po' di più ho deciso di parlarne con Jessica Kahawati, che è una mia cara amica, è una modella di origini australiane e libanesi, ha un forte background in diritti umanitari e, cosa molto più importante, è una grande tifosa dell'Inter. Abbiamo fatto l'intervista in collegamento telefonico da New York perché lei si trova lì di notte, quindi mi scuso se la qualità del video non è proprio eccellente.
Hi, Marco. Thank you for having me.
What's going on in your country?
As you've been seeing on the news, which to be honest hasn't been that much because we haven't had a lot of television coverage. Everything you've been seeing is on social media. It's what they call a revolution. 2 million people, almost half the population, because we're only a small population of 4 to 5 million people, down on the streets demanding their basic human rights.
I've heard that the real reason for the protest, go to the next step, is that the government wanted to put a tax on WhatsApp calls, messenger calls. Maybe this is not the real reason for which the protest started.
So this is the reason that they're actually saying in the news, which is absolutely false. The WhatsApp tax was something the press used to explain the demonstrations and the protests, but the internal conversation, I mean, this is what we need to look at right now. People weren't getting paid. 30 to 40% unemployment. Had a number of factors that was brewing. The WhatsApp tax happened to occur on a certain date when people were already fed up. And
It could have been anything else.
It could have been anything. For me, it's lazy journalism when we see the press actually talk about the WhatsApp tax, because it means they have no idea about what's happening internally within the country.
It didn't seem like this situation was gonna explode in such a sudden way.
Maybe from the outside it didn't seem that way, but we didn't know and didn't expect it was going to explode in this way. But it's been such a build-up for a long time, and I think they were just all wondering how and when it was going to happen.
What are the reasons of this building frustration?
There obviously isn't one reason, and the Lebanese people are demanding such basic human rights, resources for education, clean water, electricity, care for the elderly, proper infrastructure for roads, public transportation, which is non-existent. People are dying from so many diseases and cancer because of the air pollution and the garbage situation.
The Lebanese population, the Lebanese situation is quite unique. Almost 50% of population which is Christian, and the other 50 Muslim religion. From what I understand, this protest is uniting the population. It's not belonging just one political party or to one religion.
It is, and this is something that we can be so proud of, and this is something that the international media wasn't showing. First of all, they are very peaceful protests. Second of all, we haven't seen one political or religious flag. Honest, every protest I've seen in Lebanon always had some sort of political or religious flag, but this is the first time ever the Lebanese people have come together and they have just the Lebanese flag that they're holding up really high.
The composition of your government is very peculiar.
Basically, the president has to be Christian Maronite and the prime minister Sunni, and you have all different quotas for every religion, which the people don't want anymore. They're fed up and they're hungry across all religions and all sects. It's not just the poor and hungry, it's the elitists, it's the business owners. People are really fed up.
Violence took place though, violent episodes and a casualty as well.
Talking about 2 million people on the streets, so I think it's quite expected that you're going to have a couple of people that go out of hand, but that is not the general picture of what's happening. I'm proud of the Lebanese people, Christians, Muslims, all different political ideas. They've just come together and they're stopping everything.
The tactic was also to separate the protesters, expose their differences. They make the protest weaker.
I think that's a classic tactic. We all know, divide and conquer. That's not what they're able to do right now.
The response of the government was very quick, probably because they were sensing that protests could occur anytime. He immediately stopped this WhatsApp tax, proposed other reforms, like they promised to privatize telecommunications, cut their income by 50%. This didn't stop at all the protest. Why do you think?
It's funny because a lot of people were laughing at those reforms. The list of reforms doesn't really tackle the problems. The minister isn't making his money through his salary. He's making his money through corruption and through those $50 million and $20 million deals. So that makes zero sense at all. That's not combating corruption. Almost laughable to people because you're talking about multimillionaires and billionaire politicians.
The people have the perception that their real income is another one that comes from corruption.
Exactly. So that was very laughable for people.
Concretely, how can this situation change? Because what you're talking about is a dramatic change, a change in the constitution.
It is 100%. And this has been the conversation for 30 years. I mean, the country has been corrupt for such a long time. This is why a revolution is happening. I don't know what the one solution is right now. Some are speaking of a temporary technocratic government, but the people want a complete overthrow.
Generally, the protests in Lebanon were held by separated groups. They weren't uniting the whole population. This time we were saying it's different. The whole population has come together. Who should be dialoguing with the government?
The people protesting don't have a representative. They are all down there as one. They're even proud that they don't have one person leading them because they just don't want any ideologies. But obviously, they have to think about that very soon.
This is probably the weak part of your protest, that you don't have a person leading.
I wouldn't say it's the weak part, because if you had one person and this person collapses or you don't agree with them, then the whole thing collapses. You know, Marco, this is the first time in Lebanese history that this ever happens. The Lebanese people have never protested this way.
Talking and I'm thinking about the future of your protest and if it really wants to go somewhere. I see three different scenarios. The hardest scenario is the one you're hoping for, actually, and it's the one of the dialogue. But in order to do that, must have a representative of the protest. Another way in which I see it going, it's nowhere. The government held its position. Little by little, they will go back to their normal lives, more frustrated than before. And the third way, it's a violent way, which might lead to a change or might lead as well to a very strong repression by the government. The army, which position has taken?
The army is protecting the people. There has not been any violence within the protesters, which is why we are hoping for a non-violent solution to go down. I agree with you. There needs to be a temporary technocratic group that comes together that's able to negotiate with the government.
I think that things go the way one hopes, which means a peaceful dialogue. We think the country is actually ready to overcome its differences in a permanent way and not just in a moment in which everyone has come together because of a common need. Do you think when that need is gone, they will still be able to stay together?
I hope so. I think egos should really be put aside, which is very difficult to say at this time. It's been a conversation of reforms for the future. They want permanent change. They're not just looking for something temporary. Otherwise, they would have accepted the reforms. If they've proven to us in 6 days, this has never happened before. Lebanon has never come together in this way. Old people who have seen Lebanon go through all the wars, all the civil wars, proud of their grandchildren and children coming together in such a civilized way. So, yes, I think the Lebanese people are very much ready. You have such an educated young generation. I mean, you have to remember most of the people on the street are the unemployed youth, but they're all educated. Unemployment doesn't mean no education. A lot of them have master degrees, but they just don't have any job.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I really hope this protest goes a peaceful way and it actually leads to a change.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us a voice, and I hope all the Italian people stand behind us, because I know that Lebanon loves Italy, and
we are actually your first economic partner. Did you know that?
There you go. And we want to continue to do business. So thank you.
Let's do even more. Thank you.
Hi, Marco. Thank you for having me.